Hey there, have you ever noticed how prices just keep going up? Take this, back in the year 2000, a burger cost about $2. Fast forward to 2025, and that same burger could easily set you back $6. And it's not just food. A movie ticket that cost around $5 back then might now be over $10. And you're watching the same movie in the same theater. So what's really going on here? Why don't prices just stay the same? Are all sellers just raising prices together? Well, no, the main reason behind this is something called inflation. You've probably heard the term before, but do you really know what it means? Why does inflation happen? Is it always a bad thing? In this video, we'll break it all down: what inflation is, why it happens, how it's measured, whether it's bad or good, and how it's controlled. Let's jump in. Inflation, at its core, is simple. It's when prices of goods and services increase over time, and as a result, the value of your money decreases. That's why things like burgers, gas, or coffee cost more today than they did a few years ago. For example, in the 1970s, a cup of coffee cost about 25 cents. If you tried to buy a coffee with that same 25 cents today, you'd probably just get an empty cup. So prices go up and the purchasing power of money goes down. But why does this happen? Let's explore. There are several reasons inflation can happen. Let's go over the four main ones. 1. Demand pull inflation. This happens when the demand for something is higher than the supply. Imagine people usually buy 10 tons of corn and farmers produce exactly that. All good, right? But suddenly, a tornado destroys most of the corn, and now only 3 tons are available. Demand stays the same, but supply drops. So people start competing to buy what's left, and prices go up. A can of corn that used to cost $2 now costs $3. That's demand pull inflation, when high demand pulls prices upward. 2. Cost push inflation. This is when the cost to produce goods increases and businesses pass that cost to consumers. Let's say a popcorn vendor sells a bag for $3. $1 for corn, $1 for other costs, and $1 profit. But due to that same tornado, corn prices double. Now, corn costs $2. If the seller doesn't raise the price, there's no profit. So they bump the price to $4. That's cost push inflation, when production costs push prices up. 3. Built-in inflation. This is a cycle involving wages and prices. Say workers at a shoe company earn $1,000 per month, and their cost of living is $900. But inflation raises that cost to $1,000. They ask for a raise, now they earn $1,200. But the company's expenses rise, so they increase shoe prices. Now everything costs more again. It's a loop. Prices go up, wages go up, then prices go up again. 4. Too much money in the economy. If there's a sudden increase in money supply, inflation can spike. Imagine 5 loaves of bread and 5 people, each with $5. Everyone gets 1 loaf at $5, perfect balance. Now the government gives everyone another $5. They want 2 loaves now, but supply hasn't changed. The bakery raises the price to $10. The bread isn't better, but the value of money has dropped. That's inflation caused by excess money. This also happened in real life. Zimbabwe, Venezuela, and even Weimar Germany suffered from this kind of runaway inflation. Now that we know what causes inflation, how do we measure it? You might have heard terms like the inflation rate, but how do governments calculate that? The most common method is using something called the Consumer Price Index, or CPI. CPI tracks how the prices of everyday items change over time. Let's break it down. In 2024, suppose these prices: bread, $3, milk, $4, eggs, $5, candle, $8, movie ticket, $10, total $30. In 2025, bread, $3.30. Milk, $4.20. Eggs, $5.30. Candle, $8.10. Movie ticket, still $10. Total, $30.90. That's a 3% increase in total, so the inflation rate, CPI, is 3%. But here's the catch: CPI is just an average. Essential items like bread, milk, and eggs might go up by 10%, 5%, and 6%, while candles barely move and movie tickets stay the same. So even if CPI says 3%, your groceries could feel a lot more expensive. That's why inflation feels personal. It depends on what you actually spend money on. If inflation means things cost more and money is worth less, shouldn't we aim for 0% inflation or even deflation? Surprisingly, no. Here's why. 1. A little inflation is good. Most central banks aim for 2% to 3% inflation. Why? Because it encourages spending. If you know prices will go up, you're more likely to buy now, which helps businesses grow, creates jobs, and keeps the economy active. If people stop spending, the economy slows down. 2. Deflation, negative inflation, is dangerous. Prices falling sounds great, but it can crash the economy. If prices drop, companies earn less, so they cut wages or jobs. People earn less, buy less, and prices drop more. It's a vicious cycle. The Great Depression in the 1930s is a real-world example of how deflation can lead to disaster. 3. Hyperinflation is a nightmare. On the other extreme, too much inflation becomes hyperinflation. This is when prices rise more than 50% per month. Imagine bread costing $3 in January 2025 and $389 by January 2026. That's not fiction, that actually happened in Venezuela. Their government printed too much money, making the currency worthless. People were literally throwing their cash in the streets. So yes, inflation is bad when it's out of control, but small, stable inflation is actually a sign of a healthy economy. So how do we keep inflation at a healthy level? That's the job of central banks and governments. Each has tools to manage inflation. Let's break it into two parts. Monetary policy handled by central banks. This includes 1. Adjusting interest rates. Interest rates are what you pay when you borrow money. When inflation is low, central banks lower interest rates to make borrowing easier. This puts more money in people's hands, encouraging spending, which increases inflation. When inflation is too high, central banks raise interest rates. This makes borrowing more expensive, reduces spending, and slows inflation. But it's a balancing act. If rates stay high too long, it can slow the entire economy. 2. Controlling money supply, open market operations. This is where central banks buy or sell government bonds. If inflation is low, the central bank buys bonds from commercial banks. Banks receive money and lend more, putting more cash in circulation, increasing inflation. If inflation is high, the central bank sells bonds to banks. Banks pay for the bonds, reducing the money they have to lend, slowing inflation. That's how they inject or withdraw money from the economy. B. Fiscal policy handled by the government. This includes adjusting taxes. Higher taxes reduce people's spending power, helping slow inflation. Changing government spending, increasing or decreasing public spending can also influence inflation levels. So there you have it. Inflation may sound like just an economic buzzword, but it plays a huge role in your everyday life. A little inflation? Good. Too much or too little? Not good. Now you know why your coffee, burgers, and movie nights cost more than they used to, and what's being done about it. If you found this video helpful, don't forget to like, subscribe, Thanks for watching, and see you in the next one.